Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I'd like to talk about another interesting person called Ernie Vega, the Cybershaman. I have worked with this person in the past, and this whole field out there of this radionic, psionic orgone is quite interesting because it seems to have a really bunch of horribly corrupt and nasty people in it. Oddly enough, and of course it is difficult to make a living out of these places, but apparently so many others involved in this are all really a bunch of scumbuckets. Almost everybody in this industry. There's a few other people out there that seem to be okay, and we'll talk about them as well, who've been around for years, but Ernie Vega was quite a corrupt person who was involved with all sorts of information, particularly based in radionics. He did contact me when he first started, took a lot of information that I had, took a lot of my books and other things and made different copies of them and his own versions of them. So he's a very disreputable person to start off with, but it gets even worse than that. And of course, I'm always willing to work with anybody. I don't have time to do a lot of things, so if you have some particular manuscript you would like to write, we're happy to publish it if it's of a decent quality. You want to make certain products, we're happy to market those as well. We're very busy doing so many other things. We're always looking for some person to work with that has quality stuff. But the problem is most people like to steal things and then copy them outright and then work with others. But apparently, and I allege that he's been involved with this whole very controlled group of radionic orgone people who seem to be connected to organized crime and this whole black magic Satanist group that are running this entire industry right now. So they are in control of particularly the magical radionic market. Now, I was the first one to come out with magical radionic instruments, helmets, etc., based on Charles Cosamato designs. We published his books. We had him write several books, A Course, Psionic Path, Psionic Combat. These are all things that we encouraged Cosamato to write because he needed money. And of course, we were trying to get some literature out there. There's still virtually nothing on this area. And IGOS was the first to get out there and offer these kind of equipment. And publish these kind of books. There really were no books out there on these practices other than medical. You've got to remember that radionics basically was a type of healing tool and wasn't used for anything else. It wasn't until this kind of equipment, which was mentioned kind of in science fiction books, which then was kind of picked up by Cosamato, who then wrote his books, which is the pretty much from what I can find, generally the father of magical radionics to a degree. Now, this was talked about in a lot of science fiction novels where most of Cosamato got his information from, as well as so many other things were taken from the few other resources out there. So, but we put that out there, and we were the first ones really in the, I believe it was the early 90s, late 80s, I'm not sure, that this started to become popular. And there's been several companies that have come and go that have produced things, and of course we're coming out with our own line of healing and magical radionic units in the very near future. So we are looking into that right now and should have those out soon. Now, getting back to Ernie Vega, who's an interesting character here, but he bought some of our equipment. His address was well known, but he bought some of our equipment. And you're talking about, this is 25 years ago, particularly our top of the line radionic machine, and went ahead and copied that, etc., in some of his own designs as best as he could. But he bought our professional machine. But he also did something very, very bizarre and strange. Of course, since he's working with a cabal of others, as I alleged, the bottom line is that he started a complete website that took all of our radionic machines, because he was starting to build radionic machines there. I believe he was working with others as well, the typical orgone people, or he was contacted to and was paid, as is with the black magic criminal groups. There's a gang that runs all of the occult stuff across the United States. This is run by organized crime, who's been assigned to do this and make money from it. Now, you would think that this is a small market or not, but it isn't. There's a lot more money in this than people think, particularly in all these haunted items and other things. Well, there used to be lots of them on eBay, and of course, most of them are gone now, even though they're starting to pop up again. And these are all money laundering schemes done by these organized crime people, and there's many people involved in this, and there is a whole group of organized crime people that are working in this industry because there's money in it, just like gypsies who do psychic readings. They work with all the major publishers out there. Every single one of them seem to have very interesting connections to Satanists. And of course, they don't like me because I'm an independent and the good guy, so they don't deal with me. But it's very strange, the publishing you see. People like Bear Books, who is this Israeli guy who is publishing a Nazi Satanist. Well, you know, this is one reason why a lot of Jewish people have been criticized. But this is a fact. Why is someone doing that? I thought he was a crybaby New Ager. And of course, other publishers are doing the same thing, or they're hiring well-known, high-ranking Satanists. What are we supposed to say about that? So, this is the case as well, which has been stated by Edred Flowers, otherwise known as Edred Thorson, who said he was great friends in an interview on YouTube with Llewellyn, the publisher. Now, Llewellyn's publishing, he said he was best of friends with the publisher, Llewellyn, whatever the publisher's name of that is. He said he was best friends, that he knew him for years, he worked together, he wrote for them, so he was on his payroll and everything else. And here's a guy who's the second in command at that time, or I'm not sure what he's doing now, of the Temple of Set. This is not a hidden thing. Yet, he didn't publish his books, interesting. Well, he didn't want to become that public. But here he is paying this guy, he's working for this organization, and they're good buddies. Well, isn't that interesting? Why? Why is Llewellyn's toll-free number ends with 666? Don't you think you should be a little careful of that? Even though they took the word moon, but don't you think, because that's in their title, but I would be a little more careful if I was an occultist and use 666 as my number. Are they trying to tell us something? Well, since they're buddies and pals with one of the top-ranking Satanists in this country for years, Nazi Satanists, by the way. What are we to make of that? So one of the many ties, and it goes on and on with all the publishers. So as we further understand, as we move into these areas, there seems to be this direct connection. Now, this direct connection became from the orgone industry people, which I will cover as well, who are hardcore Satanists. And they have been since their inception, and then moved into this fraudulent area of orgone energy, and basically took over the industry with the help of organized crime money. And there is plenty of it, which of course is backed by the police who work with the organized crime who do all this stuff. So it's pretty disgusting story, but it is a reality we have to face. And the problem is, when you buy radionic, orgone, psychotronic type equipment, you're buying into the energy of the manufacturer. After all, these are consciousness machines. So you're being tied into the energy of that person, especially if it's extremely negative or hooked up to evil satanic practices. So you have to be careful of where you get your items from. These haunted and cursed items that are mostly just fraudulent and don't have any energy at all in them, but some of them are hooked up to very demonic energies, and they vampire people. So, and that means you. So you have to be very careful with these things. because of the fact that all of this is very, very important for you to understand to get involved. Now, one of these very strange people, and as I said, he's paid by a group of black magic gangs that are out there. There's a gang that runs most of this all over the United States, a large gang. And of course, they're connected with a whole bunch of other gangs, and of course, the establishment satanic group, your typical police departments. So these are all sewers of corruption. It's plain and simple. So Ernie Vega apparently was connected with these people and was involved with them and was paid, as I allege, to harass my organism. Why would he put up an entire site? Well, this is what I had at Atlantean Science Organization. He put up Atlantis Divide. It was the name of the website. And he had taken my pictures off the website, and he had put this there, taking orders for them. Now, I don't know what he expected to do with this, but he wanted to disgrace my organization, saying that I took money from people that then I didn't follow up with the products, which he basically was doing himself. So he thought he would do this, but I was informed by someone that this was going on, and they told me that site was there, and I got it closed down. But to get it closed down, I looked at it too. Well, who registered that site? Well, guess whose address that was? Do I hear the name Ernie? Well, I think I do. So this is the kind of thing. Of course, I fully understand the kind of immense threat that IGOS offers to the Black Lodge and the rest of them out there, that we're putting out some really potent technologies. We teach people how to take control of their lives, how to fight the system and be independent, how to keep yourself well, how to keep yourself prosperous, how to work at higher levels, and eventually even ascend out of this hell prison plane. So I understand that, and it's kind of amusing that they would take me that seriously, that they would spend all this money to do that. Another little so the whole idea is he set up this, and I contacted him and say, "Hey, Ernie, what are you doing here?" "Me? I had nothing to do with it." I said, "How come it's your street number?" "What?" "It's a big street." Well, of course it's a big street. It's a little coincidental that it is the same number as your house, though. Isn't that, Ernie? And of course you can trace these things, and I guess he was too stupid at that time. And got to remember, this is 25 years ago, to actually do it. So, but here's a little extra tidbit, of course. Is a year or so ago, I was talking to someone who brought his name up, and he said, "Well, yeah, I was in contact with Ernie, and Ernie asked me for money. He wanted a loan to pay his taxes." And of course, his comment was, "Well, I mean, if all this stuff works for you, why do you have to ask me for money?" And of course, if he had such great technology, which is Cybershaman nonsense, his crappy little software programs, and generally computer programs like this don't work well. So they don't have the kind of energy, and he really didn't have any great knowledge. Once he stole what he could from my technologies, he was unable to do much past that. So I guess he was out there doing things, he was selling equipment and so forth, but basically he's just another Black Lodge member who did this, and obviously wasn't making much money at it, or wasn't doing enough for his masters that they paid him much. They expected him to make money from his products after paying him whatever to do what he did against me and others. So this is very typical to show where these people are coming from and their kind of actions, and to show how low-powered they are. He, of course, like so many other people that decide to attack IGOS, has found out that he now takes a dirt nap. He is dead at a fairly young age. So the whole idea is that this is what happens to negative people, but if you're buying products from negative people and you expect to get positive results from them, well, you are kidding yourself. You are horribly kidding yourself. You're putting yourself in a dangerous position. Just like most orgone machines put out negative energies that tend to make you sick. Matter of fact, I don't know anybody who hasn't used one of those machines that hasn't gotten sick from it. So, they certainly are primitive bad tools because they are drawing in or accumulating what they consider orgone, which is highly negative from a very toxic environment. It's just orgone 101. You can't condense energy from the atmosphere when the atmosphere is so toxic. So this is one of the things to take into consideration. So it is important to understand it, but Ernie Vega, Cybershaman is a fraud, as they all were. And of course, the birth of these, where they started from and where they got their basic information from, was, of course, IGOS and our many publications. They know nothing. They have no background. They've proven to be very ineffective in their products. It doesn't work. Their main goal was to steal and exploit things that were ineffective. And whatever money he did make was not very much, because we know he couldn't even pay his taxes. So this is very typical of these people and very typical of the type of nasty people that they are and where they come from. But is a great warning, and I tell everybody this whole field of radionics, psychotronics, and orgone is fraught with fraud and disinformation. And these can be very dangerous to you. If you connect with their energies, they will make you sick and ill and possibly kill you. This has happened with a lot of people. He himself took a lot of negativity in from what he was doing, and look what happens. This is what happens with all of these kind of negative people that think they're going to attack others foolishly when they are such little weasels that have little to no power, and they think they know something about technology because they've got a little bit of orgone dust in their machine is going to be meaningless for their empowerment. And as I've mentioned, a lot of these things just draw in super amounts of negative energy that ultimately cause serious problems to themselves. So another one bites the dust, people. Another one down, another worthless, evil person who has tried to hurt others and given the world nothing. And if you've got any of his stuff, people, well, good luck. If I was you, I would get rid of it immediately. And if you have one of his goofball, worthless computer programs, I would delete it quickly and get rid of it fast. Until next time.